What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take NFL DFS Wise stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013, and I'm joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG of the Wise Take Nation. Most of you know him as Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 D's. Paulie, what's happening?
What up, bang?
None, man. Excited to have another football slate to discuss because now that there's no baseball to kind of hold us in between, and obviously unique gear, no basketball to hold us in between either, like we would normally have, it gets a little lonely in these streets. You know what I'm saying? A little lonely in these streets.
See that? Nothing to do till Thursday after this.
It's crazy. It's not a good place to be. Not a good place to be.
Nah. Like dick.
Like big ones. Like big ones. And not the good kind. But needless to say, very happy that we have another slate to attack. I actually did play the Showdown slate last night and did okay. I got real lucky. Whatever stat correction, there was like a stat correction happened late, and I was one of the guys that benefited. I was like profiting $5, and then I profited, and then I doubled my money just with that little. I don't even know what it was, but it was great, phenomenal.
Nice.
And it was a shitty main slate for me, so that was cool. That was cool.
No, I mean, I don't think I even told you, but I posted in the Slack. Like I took second in one of them flash drafts again. I won like $400, on like 26, and made back all the losses from the main slate. It was glorious. Those flash things are legit, man.
Dude, you've been cleaning up at those fucking things. It's like every Sunday,
Dude,
you're playing with free money because you're just like, regardless of the outcome, you're like either profiting or winning your money back in those flash drafts. I'm happy for you, but as someone who can't play, because for some reason in New Jersey we can do everything else, we can't do that. I'm just like, damn, man.
So last night there wasn't much of this, but there's been slates or games where a guy is ruled out. He gets hurt, Two weeks ago was it was like Thursday. Calvin Ridley got hurt in the game, right? He was 40% owned in the flash draft. Like there's edge.
Edge all day. Edge. That's one of Joey's favorite words. He loves that word.
Yeah.
He loves that word on the multiple. But yeah, man, if you're in a state that allows you to try the flash drafts, I do recommend hitting up Paulie. And you can find him on Twitter, though you're more likely to get a hold of him in the Slack. If you're a Wise Take Nation member, wisetake.com. Holla. But I recommend you hitting up Paulie and ask him to show you the ropes. Because Paulie, in all seriousness, for weeks now. And I'm surprised that it took us this long to even talk about it. Because you've been doing this since the minute, like weeks ago, like when you discovered that there was a flash draft. And you've been successful literally every time. I mean, it's like, pretty awesome. So hit him up in the Slack. And Paulie will point you. He will show you the way. With that said, the rest of us are going to talk about this single game slate as a whole. Monday Night Football, Tampa Bay Bucs, New York Giants, Paulie's New York Giants. That is. This total I think has taken a nosedive from 48 down to 46.5. But I do think at one point it was at 45 or 45.5. So I think it's gone down, but then kind of gone back up. It's going to be a little chilly. I can tell you that because I'm in New Jersey right now and it's fucking freezing outside. And, wind on and off, like 10, 15 miles an hour wind is I think in the forecast. It's like kind of on and off. I've seen it throughout the day. The Bucs currently 13-point favorites. They opened up as 10-point favorites. I guess real quick, we'll do a macro view of the game itself, Paulie, and then we'll kind of split it into teams. How do you think this game goes?
I think it's close. I think the Giants actually could win it. That's what they do. They play good against shitty. They play well against good teams. They play terrible against bad teams. But Tampa Bay is pretty good. They are missing Chris Godwin. The Giants kind of blow, but I think the Danny Jones, progression is going to hit, and he'll have a couple decent games. He actually had his best game of the year last year against Tampa Bay. They're slightly different team this year. But I think this game's much closer than the spread says, and I think the over-under is probably right around where it ends up. I think we see like a 24-20, 24-23 kind of game.
Yeah, I do agree with you in that most cases the Giants seem to play up or down to their competition. I am a little worried about them hanging around in this one. It depends on what Tampa shows up, right? It's the same Tampa Bay team that beat the Green Bay Packers 38-10 because they just stuffed Rodgers. Um, on the flip side, Tampa's kind of been a team that plays up or down to their competition. And we've kind of seen
Yeah,
them let weaker teams kind of, do things you wouldn't expect them to do. I mean, even the Raiders, they did win that game comfortably, but they still gave up 20 points to the Raiders. And when you look at it on paper, you were probably, I know I was not expecting the Raiders to put up as many points as they did. And what's funny about Tampa is where they're weakest. It seems to be the deep ball. That seems to be, like,
yeah.
if you look at their history, it's like they get beat by the deep ball. Aguilar beat them twice on the deep ball.
Aguilar.
Aguilar, and that guy can't catch. So apparently, if you beat the Tampa Bay secondary deep, you will catch the ball. Aguilar is proof. You will catch the ball.
Yeah.
Because apparently he can't even catch babies being thrown out of windows, according to Philly fans. What the Philly fans said, not me. Aguilar. With that said, we'll go team by team. We'll go road team first. Talk to me about Tampa Tom.
Yeah. So I think the pass game is where they're going to thrive. The Giants have been decent on the ground, and Tampa Tommy, they will throw the rock. He kind of distributes it all over. I in particular like what's his face, Scotty Miller, Gronkowski. I think Mike Evans, like, it's interesting. Like, depends what field you're in. Like, I think in like higher stakes, Mike Evans will be contrarian. I think in like the lower, like, he's just thought of as their number one guy. People are going to play him even in a tough matchup. So, like, in the higher stakes, I do like Mike Evans. And then I'd like Leonard Fournette out of the backfield. He especially for DraftKings, I think, he's the guy they're going to throw to. And you'll probably see pretty close to like a 60-40 split in terms of carries. And then we got this guy, Tyler Johnson, kind of emerging in Godwin's absence that you could take a couple shots at. But Scotty Miller and Mike Evans are the two I like the most in the pass game, paired up with Tom Brady, run back some Giants.
Yeah, starting with good old Tampa Tom. I'm good with him on a raw point scale. I think at some point I expect Tampa to score points in some way, and I just think it's likely that from a raw point standpoint, he could end up, even if Ronald Jones were to run in two, if there's 3 total touchdowns, then Tom got the other one. And there's even a chance that he was attached to one of the running backs or led to the drive. So I do like Brady. Mike Evans, I did a 180 on coming into it. I didn't really like Mike Evans, and if you look at Mike Evans' numbers recently, there's nothing to like. Then you factor in, like you mentioned, Bradbury's been good this year. He has. He's been very good in playing number one corner. It's not to say he's been shut down. Guys have still had decent games against him, but it has not been easy. What kind of swung me around to like Evans again is the fact that Godwin is out, and if you look at what Evans has done in games without Godwin, it's pretty much his best games of the year. Week 2 against Carolina, granted it is Carolina, but 10 targets, 7 catches. Week 4, Godwin missed, and we had 7 for 8 on 122 yards against the Chargers. And then I think it was week 5 against the Bears. Wasn't the best, but still 5 catches, 9 targets, and a touchdown, 1 for 15. So that could be one of the higher scores on this slate. So I did come around on him,
Yep.
like knows. As far as value goes, I do like the Godwin, or not Godwin, the Tyler Johnson call. I actually have at least one team where I'm taking a shot with him and the captain, just to kind of load up in like a shootout build so that I'm able to get both quarterbacks and get both playmakers. That's not my favorite build. It's just a build that I have. But one place the Giants have been a little weak is the slot. We've seen slots kind of have their way. CeeDee Lamb, when the Giants played with what was it? I think Dalton back there. Right, that was the game that he got hurt, Prescott, right? The Giants?
Yeah.
It was the Giants, yes. But yeah, so I do like him at the price. Think he's a good value play. Scotty Miller, I'm into. But him and Ronald Jones, and I didn't even talk about Fournette. I'm with you. I do like Fournette. He kind of overtook the role a little bit last week. He won the snap count. He was the more efficient one. And I think that's what it's going to come down to is who's more efficient. That's who Arians is going to give the ball to. Who's doing better? I'm going to give it to you. And I think that Fournette's the better running back. So I think at some point, if not now, eventually Fournette's going to take that job, you know? So I do like that. With that said, I'm stuck on the Scotty, like Ronald Jones situation because they're $200 apart on DraftKings. And neither of them for me are like mandatories, like gotta get him in type situations, right? But they're equally like, well, I want some of this. Ronald Jones, I think you could argue, has the higher floor because he is going to get double-digit carries, you would think, especially if Tampa does lead. However, I think Scotty Miller is the clear, like, higher upside, higher ceiling in this situation, as he showed last week going for 25, mainly because Ronald Jones is not the only back anymore. He does now have Leonard Fournette splitting carries, whereas Scotty Miller is going to get his snaps in regardless because there's no Godwin. So which one, I'm assuming it's Miller for you, that you prefer? Yeah. Over Rojo.
Evans? Oh, yeah, for sure, Miller. This, to me, seems like both teams are going to have the success in the pass game.
I'll let you, boy. What is your interest level in the Tampa Bay defense?
They're pricey.
Yeah.
You know, I did like them before I, saw the price. I mean, Danny Jones is, the gift that keeps on giving, fumbles every game and throws a few picks. So they're still viable, but what are they, like 7-4 or something like that?
Yeah. No, they're expensive. They're more expensive than Slayton.
Like, they got to get you, a monster game to pay that off. Although I kind of figured I wouldn't really play much of it.
It comes down to, like, if I'm doing, I do have one team with the defense in there, and it's basically me just 3, right? I just got 3.
Right, yeah.
So one of my teams is dedicated to the onslaught. It's dedicated to, because it is a 13-point spread. The Giants have been struggling, so there is a scenario where Tampa Bay just stomps them and Giants struggle. So I have like one Giants player, maybe a Golden Tate or a Slayton or an Ingram. Tate only because he's 3K. He's the only reason he popped in my head. And then it's like an onslaught of Tampa guys, right? I got some Evans, I got the Fournette, maybe Brady, defense, whatever. That's the only way that I'm playing the Bucs. Like, you're not just playing the Bucs in the midst of a game stack. Because like you said, even if they get a pick 6, if the game does shoot out, it's not going to be enough at those prices. So that was how I thought also. The only way I'm using the Bucs D is in one of those like onslaught type lineups, which on the Showdown I do like to do from time to time. And, it was like Philly yesterday. There was a lot of different onslaughts. I just didn't have quite the right onslaught setting, but that was the way to go in a game that ultimately ended up as a blowout. So I'm with you on that. Like, I'm not making it a priority, but I'm going to have one team that's onslaughty, and I'm going. And, like, that was the one I was tempted to play Ronald Jones, but I can't do it, bro. Like, if they're going to get anywhere near the same carries. Now, here's a question I saw in the chat that I'm going to ask now. I tried to answer the question at the end. I'm going to ask this question now because I thought it was a good one. And it's from Travis Duarte. How do you guys feel about putting both Fournette and Ronald Jones in the lineup? Not necessarily as captains, just in the lineup. Now, in that kind of build, I think I would want, for sure, the defense. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're on the way to an
I agree with that.
At that point. So it's not necessarily preferred. Yeah. I know Paulie's leaning more towards shootout, so Paulie's got no interest in that because that's not what you're predicting the game to be. But if you're predicting the game to be,
Yeah, I'm with you, but like, to me, the builds that come way more on Showdown, it's all about correlating.
Yeah.
Pick a game flow. So in that scenario, you're saying that Tampa Bay dominates, and they run out the clock a lot in the second half and kind of split it up between the two dudes. And then the Giants are trying to come back and they can't get out of their own way because the pass rush is getting to them. And we see fumbles, pick 6, yada, yada. So that's fine to me because it's certainly a path that can happen. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But a lot of times the defense is like cheaper that you could just put it in any build as just like a player that's going to get some points. Mm-hmm. But at that price, they really got to do some dirty. So it's only way I'm using them is if it fits kind of as a correlation.
Right. If and again, like the one route, I mean, maybe there's more routes, but the one route I can see is just if Giants just don't show up. And so you're loading up on all Tampa Bay guys, Tampa Bay defense, Rojo, fucking the other running back, and then you have like one giant player because you literally have to. And it's like a Tate or someone not too expensive, an Ingram, maybe even the kicker, something like. That's the scenario where I think it's okay to play them both. With that said, we'll talk about specials. Well, I guess real quick, just address the kickers. I guess. Any interest in the Tampa kicker?
Yes, definitely. Like him way more than the Giants kicker. Just think they'll have way more opportunities. And I don't think this game goes to the moon like 38, 37 or anything like that. So, like, I do think the bunch of drives end with field goals. And, whenever you think it's going to be like a close, somewhat offensive game, the double kicker or at least one makes a ton of sense in your lineups.
Agreed, no. All right, talk to me about the Giants.
Real quick, what about the tight ends on Tampa? Like, I do like Gronkowski. Do you have any interest in Cameron Braidsky?
Not a ton. I mean, obviously it's a touchdown-dependent play. He's just not really getting as involved. There is more viability to double tight end sets. Maybe we see him on the field more because Godwin's out. But they do seem kind of comfortable going with Tyler Johnson in the slot, playing Scotty Miller out wide. And again, it comes down to what you think the Giants are going to do on the other side to push them. So I guess Braid's fine. Even if they're running the ball and they do more double tight ends, it's okay. But I'm not really into either tight end, to be honest with you. Even Gronk, who I think I'm fine with Gronk. I wouldn't like talk anybody out of him. But I personally didn't find him as a priority. I know he's done really well and Godwin's out and all that. But the Giants haven't exactly been like slouches either against it. So just looking at the price, I was like, I'd rather just find a way to get Evans, who's gotten consistent massive targets every time Godwin's been out. And then I kind of like the idea of my middle of the field option being Scotty Miller because not Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson because I'm not investing as much. But I'm fine with Gronk. Braid, I just didn't really feel comfortable. He's cheap. I just didn't feel comfortable. Honestly, if he was like 200, I would have been more interested. What about you?
Exact same sentiments.
Holla at your boy. I'm glad you brought that up, though. I totally forgot to talk about Gronk and them. Hit the like button if you haven't already, Nation. We're moving on to the Giants side. Paulie, talk to me about your Giants.
Yeah, so, I know it's not the same team. They're much better defensively, but Daniel Jones had his best game of the year against them last year. It's Monday night at home, and they've been struggling. And I do think that they kind of start to right the ship a little as guys are getting healthy and Daniel Jones just gains more experience. Now, certainly the pass rush is a concern. I'm sure he'll make some mistakes. He seems to fumble every game. But he's coming off a 2-touchdown game against Philly through the air. And, I think he's going to improve. He also had that, 80-yard touchdown run where he fell because he got tackled by the air. So, I like Daniel Jones a bit, especially paired up with the receiver. In this situation, I think you can and should play Tom Brady in captains. I think he'll be the most popular captain. Danny Jones, I wouldn't put in the captain, but I would, have a giant receiver in the captain and pair him with that. I think, if the Giants do win or do keep it close, one receiver kind of goes off today. So I do like Slayton, as you mentioned. Tampa struggles versus deep ball. He's the deep ball guy. I also like Sterling Shepard. I just think he'll be kind of lower owned, and he's a reliable, safe possession kind of dude. Not really much interest in Golden Tate, but he did score a touchdown last week, and you never know. Evan Ingram, I'm starting to kind of give up on. They do target the shit out of him from time to time, but he just hasn't done much with it. He hasn't done dick with the after the catch. But supposedly the Giants are shopping him. This is the final week before the trade deadline, so maybe they try to get some value out of him and get him some TDs and make him look more attractive or some shit. Cool with Graham Gano. Cool with the Giants defense, because they're super cheap and they've been making plays this year. They're better than people think. So, and Tom Brady's thrown a few pick sixes this year. I think, quite a few actually. So, Giants defense pretty sneaky. Love the receivers. Wayne Gallman's pretty cheap too. I forgot to mention him. Getting the starting role. The Giants are number 1 in passes under 10-yard completion rate. And Tampa's actually not great against that. So dump offs to Gallman, DraftKings, those points will kind of rack up. So I'm all right with that too.
Yeah, I mean, I got pretty similar ideas. I to me, it's all about the build. In a shootout build, which I do have one, Danny Jones is definitely a guy you want, right? Like I don't think, even if Gallman has a good game, I don't see a world where it's a shootout and Danny Jones is not involved in it. On a one-game slate where raw points matter. My second favorite shootout player is Slayton, because I think that's going to be how we see success. We saw the Chargers with Guyton, where that's how they were able to score some touchdowns. It was a couple deep balls. Aguilar, as we talked about earlier, also was a couple deep balls. So that seems to be the way that you beat Todd Bowles' defense, is if you could beat them deep, if you can catch them sleeping, and that makes sense because they like to blitz a lot. So that ends up, bringing safeties up to stop the run, all these kind of things. So if you're building a shootout type build, it's Slayton. My two favorite guys for really all around, I guess, but where I ended up using them was more in those onslaught type builds, are Shepard number one, just for the sake of the targets. You can see where there is a scenario either way where they try to force him the ball. He got 10 targets in his first game back last week. It's a tough matchup, but I agree with Paulie that he's going to be lower owned. I think people are going to either try to go up to Slayton or they're going to drop down to Ingram. And I think Shepard's kind of got to get skipped right in the middle. And then Golden Tate's the other one that, you just don't want to invest a lot of money in the Giants offense if you don't think they're going to do well today. So you want to build a team that tells a story of them struggling. The struggling story is Danny Jones is under pressure and he's throwing dump offs, like you said, Paulie. And Golden Tate's one of those guys. Quick reads. Here you go. Here's the ball. Tampa Bay does have a good pass rush. That's how they got to Rodgers. So that's the scenario. Ingram is the one that's got me puzzled too, man. Like, I'm ready to give up on him also, but at the end of the day, they are trying to get him the ball. It's not working, and he's not helping his own case. He's the I'm obviously in football that you can't blame one thing on anyone, right? There's a ton of plays that all add up to the one outcome. But had he caught that fucking ball last week, the Giants would have beat the Eagles no problem. They killed the clock. It's over. Like, right in his fucking hands in the crunch. Like, at what point does the team give up on him? And like you said, the Giants have talked about shopping him. And if you're walking to shop him and you want anything decent, you got to make him look somewhat good. You can't, you're not going to just not use him anymore and say we've given up on him. They're like, I'm not giving you shit for a player you gave up on. You know what I'm saying? Like, show me he could ball a little bit. So I'm torn. I think you could play him in any kind of build because he is cheap. And that's the thing about the slate overall, bro. The Giant players are all cheap. Outside of Danny Jones, like, they're all cheap. When you compare them to, I mean, even Scotty Miller is more fucking expensive than Slayton. He's more expensive than Shepard. And, like, you understand Evans. You get that. But
I would get Scotty Miller too, but yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, I get Scotty Miller being one of the higher owned with Godwin out, but significantly higher than Slayton, Shepard, Ingram. That just shows you where DraftKings are with the Giants, man. No respect. I don't blame him. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm sure that, the algorithm probably accounts for the spread and all that kind of shit, but it's like, damn. And so that has me kind of like, I wonder what the public's going to do. This is a slate where, like, I really, like, I'm not sure what the ownership's going to be on this one game slate. I know the Buck players, and I know that. What about the other side? How many of these Giant players get played, and which ones? Like, that's the one I'm a little more like,
a lot of 5-1 builds.
You think?
Yeah.
See, that's what I think too. Except when you go through the builds, unless you're into playing some ugly players, the Giant, you can get really good receivers at a cheap price. Like, Slayton is like a high upside guy, and he's one of the cheapest guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, Shepard had 10 targets and is the number one receiver, and he's 6'6". It was just strange, It was just strange, doing something strange for a piece of change type strange.
Yeah.
With that said, we'll go into captains, and then if there's any questions, Nation, pop them in there. Who are your favorite captains?
Scotty Miller, Leonard Fournette, Darius Slayton, Tom Brady.
I like it. I'm gonna go with Mike Evans. I'll go Mike Evans. I will go Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette. And then it's all Bucs, obviously. But my last one, again, is a Tyler Johnson in like a shootout type build. Because that was one of the ways that I was able to comfortably get a lot of those stud players in the same lineup. But with that said, I do have like 2 designed as onslaughts. So holla at your boy that way, What up, Nelson? Good to see you guys. Tony A, what's up? Good to see you. Tony A says, I was a tenth of a point away from first on a KFC contest on DK last night. Tenth of a point. That's fucking rough. What about that dude that had $1 million and then there was a stat correction on a sack that knocked him down to like 3 Gs? How about that? That wasn't last night. Did you hear about that shit? It's like last week.
Of course. That was fucking crazy.
Oh, yeah, man. Like, could you imagine, bro? Like, looking.
That kid went to bed. He had no clue. And the next day he's the fucking talk of the industry, and ESPN's writing articles about him, and he's like, holy shit.
Oh, God, man.
He could have never knowing, having no depression, Now, he's like, fuck it. I'm going to die anyway. Like, I missed my chance.
His life is just over. It's just like, that was the peak. Oh. I missed my peak. I was a millionaire for like 5 seconds or 5 minutes, and I was asleep. I didn't even fucking enjoy that shit. That's it. He peaked. Definitely a bad beat. Hit the like button, nation. See a bunch of y'all watching live. The likes compared to how many of y'all watching just don't really add up, man. And I think I think we're in the business of getting likes now, because that's what you got to do to be a successful business in this day and age in society. So please hit the like button. Much appreciated.
I went from sucking dick for coke to sucking dick for life.
Yeah, exactly. That's where we're at. And you know how we feel about them. We just talked about that. You know how we feel about it. We talked about that earlier. Travis Duarte, can Ingram actually score a damn touchdown?
Oh.
I don't know if I disagree, man. They've tried. They're trying everything to get this man in the end zone. They're letting him run the ball. They're doing fake punts with him. They're doing like everything they can to try to get him in there, man. And he's just not helping his own cause, man. Tony A is actual legitimate question. Not to say that the Ingram wasn't legitimate, Travis. Just meant this one's also a big one. Will wind be a factor tonight?
Nah.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I mean, listen, all day today there's been wind on and off, but it's been pretty calm the last little while. And it's cold, but it's not like freezing regular New Jersey cold. It's just, it's getting there. It's just, so I don't think wind. I mean, Roth all day, he didn't really update it today, but he had 10 to 15 mile an hour winds, had it as a yellow. So I don't think it's going to be that major of an impact either. Let's see. We got Artful Dodger saying, I'm going to play Fournette. I'm with it. Thoughts on MVPing Gauman from House of COD?
What was the question?
Thoughts on MVP Gauman?
MVP Gauman, that's a stretch, but flex Gauman all day.
All day. Flex him all day. Tampa plays tough against tight ends. They've been pretty tough against most people. Cox is like the deep ball has really been the main thing. Slide action, all that good stuff. Now that's Ronald Jones. That's okay. Look at that. Oh, yes. Yes. House of God says the Gauman show and garbage time. Garbage time's a legit thing. Even if this game gets ugly, like, that's a legit thing for the Giants offense alone. Black 8890 says, have a feeling Tate's gonna go off. He's another one that they're talking about trading. Keep an eye on that.
Do you remember the text I sent you Saturday night when my phone started wigging out and sending me some screenshots?
Yes.
Like the updates?
Yeah, that's right.
And it was DK Metcalf touchdowns, and then the guy fucking smashes.
That was crazy, man.
Isn't that crazy?
DraftKings was speaking to you, bro. It was.
It's Saturday night. My phone started getting like old DK Metcalf touchdown updates from like weeks prior. I don't know why. And I was like, this is a sign. I got to play him Sunday, which I did. Didn't help.
And bro, the funny part about that, too, is that it wasn't like it was last week's, because Metcalf didn't score at all last week. This was like, it went back like from the grave, like a situation where, I mean, more than 2 weeks, I don't even remember when it happened. So it's like, it's already passed beyond my memory bank to come back to tell you that Metcalf is scoring touchdowns. Never give up that phone, bro. Never get up that phone. Joshua Sonnenfeld says, do you think the Bucs defense is worth the price? We talked about that earlier. Only in onslaught builds. Only in like you're thinking the Giants have no shot. You're playing like Golden Tate or Shepard, just one possession person in onslaught city. That's it. Other than that, no, they're too expensive. Do you think the Giants' top cornerback will hurt Evans?
No.
Yeah, Evans has faced some of the top corners in the league, and it takes a lot to shut him down. It really does. Tony A, what Giant wide receiver you like the most?
I like what's his face, Slayton the most, but I also do really like Shepard. Yes,
That's how I'm doing it. So my favorite onslaught build, like if I'm doing one Giant, it's Shepard because I'm just banking on targets. I'm just banking on there's enough targets even if they're losing. In a shootout build, Slayton's actually my favorite. Not to say you can't play both, but in my shootout build, Slayton's my favorite because that's deep ball city touchdowns all day. You know what I mean? So that's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't see any other questions. Appreciate you guys come hanging out with us on a Monday night. We'll be back at it tomorrow night, myself, Patio Joe, with the first look for week 9. Damn. No, week 8. Week 8? No, week 9. Week 9. Shit. Oh, damn.
You won the money on 7. Last weekend was 8. This is 9.
That's right. I got to update this shit. It's week 9. I've been here. Shit, man. I fucked everything up. But anyway, nothing I can't fix. So appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Go check us out at whitestake.com. We have our projections up there for download if you're a White State Nation member. Paulie, anything to close before we get up out of here?
I see, man. We out of here.
I see. For myself, the entire White State Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.